Hello, once again, welcome to another edition of the I'm Always Right Sports Podcast. I am your host, as always, the Mouth of Michigan, Robin Dyka. I am accompanied by my co-host, the Merc Zone, Mike Merc.
I'm here.
And finally, once again, we have the man, Kyle Budzanowski.
I'm depressed.
Well, that's a bummer. All right, let's just jump right into it, guys. We have so much to go over today. I mean, I can't even describe how much stuff we got to go over. We've got the Lions' big win in Philly, right? And what do we think about this team kind of going forward? We've got Urban Meyer or Jim Harbaugh. That debate between Michigan fans is clearly becoming something that we need to talk about. We've got the PWI, Pro Wrestling Illustrated 500 is out, so we will list the number one wrestler in the world this year, Mike, according to Pro Wrestling Illustrated. We've got John Morrison. He's potentially re-signing with the WWE, as well as some other moves that WWE is making in anticipation for AEW's debut. And at the end of the show, we're going to talk some Tiger talking about how great that season was, kind of, sort of, not really, but we'll try and figure it out and pull some positives out of there if we can. But let's jump right into it, though, guys. We talked last week a little bit, Mike, you and I did, about what would happen, what would you think if they win in Philadelphia, right? Lions pull out the W. They kind of steal one. They gave every possible chance to give the damn game away, as they typically do, and like to give me a heart attack. But I'm going to start with you, Mike. How big of a win was this?
This win was actually pretty big for us in general. Going into the season, we had our polls that we did up preseason, and we all had them losing to the Eagles.
Right.
Every single one of us.
Absolutely.
So winning that game puts us at 2 wins. Most people had us maybe at 1-3, maybe at 2-2 if we're really lucky about it. And now you're sitting at 2-0-1 going into week 4.
Right.
So this is probably the best case scenario that you can look at into the start of the season.
Yes.
And it's the bulk of our schedule. So it's not it's not like, oh, you beat the Giants, Redskins, and Cardinals, or I guess we tied the Cardinals, or the Raiders or whatever. You have this easy first 4-game schedule. Now you're going to go play the Chiefs in week 9 and all these later teams. You're playing really with the bulk of who you're really going to play early, besides maybe Dallas later in the year.
Right.
You're out of conference or out of division stuff as early this year, and you're 2-0-1 going out of it. So it's a good start, and I'm proud.
Yeah, Mike or Kyle, sorry. What do you think? How big was this win? I know you guys watched it together. What was your impressions? I mean, were you expecting them to get the win? Right. I know they were a little beaten up. I get that, but at the same time, you're still in Philadelphia. You're still going against a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, right? Carson Wentz is healthy. How big of a win was it in your book?
I think it was a pretty big win in the big scheme of things. I think that the Philadelphia is a little overrated. They do have injuries, but in the big scheme of things, it's obviously a win is a win. It's good to win, but obviously you got this, and then you're gonna have a little especially Kansas City. Right. It was a good statement, even though like they almost blew it. Yeah. But there was a good statement when now you're gonna play Kansas City at home. So I think it's not even good for just the scheme of things, but just for their own selves. Like,
right, and I think too. Here's the thing, right, and we'll talk about this more in a second. But like I said, right, they almost blew that game. But here's a stat, though, I don't think people are really... everyone talks about how Philadelphia had 7 drops, how they had this and that, or else like that. But the Lions' secondary, at the end of that game, Wentz went 2 for 7 for 7 yards in the last 2 drives of that game. You know what I mean? 2 for 7 for 7 yards. That right there is a dramatic improvement, because I can probably speak for all of us when I say I was expecting a big play to happen where someone gets lost in coverage, somebody blitzes when they're not supposed, something happens, and some guy's left wide open in the back of the end zone, and Wentz finds it.
There are 2 things to that. One, it's better to be lucky than good.
Absolutely.
Because you say, well, he only threw for 7 yards. Yeah, and the game-winning pass that he threw, he was relatively open, and the ball wasn't even touched. He just dropped the pass.
Right.
Like, if he catches that, I know Rochelle Melvin was there, and maybe put a hand up to get in his face. But at the grand scheme of things, the ball hit him right in the chest. Yeah. So if he catches that, it's a touchdown, and then it's a whole different story at that point. So I'd rather be lucky than good at that point. And 2, I think this Eagles and Chargers win. I think when you look later in the season, you're going to look back and be like, they beat the Eagles and Chargers. It's not going to be, oh, they beat up a really crappy, really hurt Chargers and Philly team. It's going to be, you beat the Eagles.
Right, absolutely.
Like at the end of the season,
and that's a big game, especially because Philly just beat Green Bay.
Yeah. You go into week 16 and 15 or whatever, and you go, remember way back when they beat the Eagles? Like that was a big win for them.
Right.
To get to this point that they're at right now.
Exactly.
And you're not going to remember, they had all their guys, their starting wide receivers out. That's not a point that's going to be made later.
Exactly. And here's the thing. And we've seen now some Lions Nation is kind of starting to come out of the woodwork a little bit, right? And they're really starting to get behind this team. Rightfully so or not is yet to be determined. But the national media is not. They're not behind this team at all, right? Tony Dungy and Rodney Harrison made it very clear that this team is not a very good football team, and they hate everything that they do, basically. And some other national pundits, too, have kind of said the same thing, where they're like, it's more about the Eagles than it was the Lions. And maybe true, but at the end of the day, like you said, win is a win. What is it going to take for you, unless you already do, to believe in this team, right? To get on this bandwagon, right? Like, even some guys from 97 on the ticket are jumping on this bandwagon a little bit, and that never happens. So they're going to start 5-0 and blow everybody out for them to even give them any sort of credit. Yeah. So, I mean, what is it going to take for you to kind of jump, unless you're already there, and if you are, why are you there?
I'm not there yet. I still think that this team could blunder because of their run defense later in the year. Yeah. However, I do think that you can make a statement on the Chiefs this week.
Absolutely. We'll talk about them in a second.
Yeah, obviously, when you guys hear this, it'll be Monday, and it'll be afterwards. So we don't know the outcome of this game. We're recording on a Saturday.
Yep.
But I think if you go in, and even if you lose, because this is not a game where you can ask 100 people.
You're playing house money.
Yeah, 98 people out of the 100 would be like, Chiefs win. Yeah. And maybe 2 people that are very optimistic might go, I think the Lions can win.
So me and one other guy.
You and one other person. Absolutely. But I think if you can play a competitive, 30 to 20, 30 to 25, 34-24 type game, and you just look like, wow, that was a game. They hung in there. Chiefs beat them at the end, but you hung in for 3.5 quarters, 3 3/4 or whatever.
Right, absolutely.
I think then you can go, you play with arguably the top 3 team in the league right now.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's what I'm expecting. I'm not expecting now if you get blown out 42-7.
Right. Then you're like, okay, clearly.
Maybe you're not in that area yet.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Kyle, same question to you, right? Are you on the bandwagon already? If you're not, what do you need to see? And if you are, why? What is it going to take what would you tell Lions fans who maybe are a little hesitant to jump on this bandwagon? Here's the positives, or what do you need to see?
I'm not fully, like Michael said, I'm not fully on the bandwagon just yet. I think we need to see at least a little bit more against some quality teams before you could really jump on a bandwagon. But I think, like what Michael said, even if you make a game against Kansas City close, where it's like a 3-point, 1 touchdown lead, you could argue they could be legit, and then that's when you could start showing some of these people nationally they can compete. They've beaten the teams that they need to beat, except for Arizona, obviously.
Right.
But that's different.
But they didn't lose. They didn't lose. That's
you played with the teams that you needed to beat. You've beaten some teams. Even Kansas City, even if you lose by 3 points, you're like, okay, we can.
We're there. We can compete with those teams.
If they go down the field, if it's tight, if it's 34-34, and Kansas City drives down the field, kicks a game-winning field goal,
I'm not gonna be mad.
You go, we did our best there. It's the best team in the league, and you lost by 3.
Well, here's my question for you guys then. Mike, I'll start with you, and then Kyle, I'll come back to you. If the record is 2-1-1, how do you feel about this team? They lose to Kansas City. It doesn't matter what the score is. Did they lose? How do you feel about this team going into the bye week?
I'm optimistic because of how I thought they would start.
Right.
I thought of a 1-3, and you're going 2-1-1. So you could give it 3-1. You could put it at 2-2. However you want to see that Cardinals game go.
Right.
But it's a better start. Right. And I always look at it from last year as you go. You start off 1-3 last year, and you had abysmal first 2 games. These first 3 games now, you actually looked competent and you won 2 of them.
Exactly.
So I think from where you started, and you saw last year, they just rose.
Right.
They never really went down.
Absolutely.
They just rose. So if you continue to rise from where you're at now, I'm optimistic, but I would wish for a little bit.
I think, and here's the thing too. I think you made a great point last week when you said they started out at a -44 on the scale of competent, right? And by the end of it, they were 2 or 5, whatever. Now they're already starting out at that 2-3 level, and you can see there's some progression. If they beat the Chiefs, let's just once again, this is being recorded before the game, right? But just as a hypothetical, they start out 3-0-1. How do you feel going into the bye? Are you let's go. I mean, I think there's expectations now that have been set. Like you better make playoffs.
I won't say there. I mean, I think there are expectations. You have to make the playoffs if you start your first quarter of the season with 3 wins and no losses. Really, 3.5 wins at that point. But I do expect great game plans the rest of the year, because if you can beat Kansas City, it's going to be due to your game plan. Mm-hmm. It's going to be you ran the scheme, you ran the ball, you stopped them on defense. That's a scheme.
Forced a turnover at a crucial time.
Exactly. Right. So at that point, I'm like, that's what I'm expecting. Even if you don't beat Green Bay twice, or you don't beat Chicago, I don't expect you to beat all these teams twice, or Dallas even. But as long as you just play with them, and it's very close games, and you can see, they're playing with them, and then you beat down the teams that you should beat, like the Giants, Redskins. Absolutely. That's what I'm expecting if you beat the Chiefs. You're probably on a better level.
No, I'm in total lockstep with you. Kyle, same question to you. They lose, they start up 2-1-1. How do you feel going into the bye? Let's say worst case scenario, they lose. How do you feel? Are you kind of just like, okay, are you still wait and see? Or I mean, how are you feeling going into the bye knowing the big Monday night matchup that looms with Green Bay?
I'm feeling, depending on how the game goes, obviously, I'm feeling decently well. If they lose 56-0, and I'm like, oh god, no. That's another
they
year.
fooled us again.
Yeah. But if they're at least competitive, win or lose, then I'm gonna stay optimistic. Yeah. And I think the rest of the country will become optimistic with this team. Like, wow, they're a competitive team.
No, I would disagree with that statement. I think that the Lions almost have to win this game for any national coverage to be like, oh, they're legit. Because if they lose by 5 points like Baltimore did last year, I don't think anybody goes like, oh, well, they played with them. You know what I mean? Because no one's ever actually.
But you can look at it this year and the Baltimore game, because you're like, they're kind of there. Right. I think people. I think
people give Baltimore more credence just because they've done it before. You know what I mean? Like Baltimore's won important football games where we haven't. Yeah. So I don't blame national media necessarily, but I do think that even if it's close, they're just going to go, oh, well, Mahomes had a bad day. Or whatever, whatever the case is. Not that the Lions played well. You know what I mean? It's always the other team has to do something wrong for us to do something well. If they win, how are you feeling going into the bye?
I'm feeling of course I'm feeling fantastic. We just beat
they're probably the second best team. I'm going to say New England's the best still, but probably the second best team in the league if they do that. Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys, right? I think as long as it's somewhat a respectable game, it's not an absolute drudging like the last time we played them. It was just like, good Lord, and that was Alex Smith at quarterback, for goodness sakes. So if they can go in, they can, play with them, hang with them. Don't do anything stupid. It's just it would be better off if, we would at least show some competency out on the field. Similarly, if they win, right, then it's like, all right, all hands on deck. You know what I mean, kind of thing. Where I think the expectations are playoffs. You should be competing for the division championship. Like things that were unobtainable, I think, to a lot of people around the nation about what this Lions team could do, immediately starts the conversation over again. Yeah. You know what I mean? They start out 3-0-1 in probably the hardest part of their schedule, outside of their division games, because that division is still very tough. Like that's saying something, in my opinion. You know what I mean? So hopefully they don't falter down the road, and hopefully they maybe steal a win somehow. All right, let's shift now to some Michigan talk. Kyle wasn't here when we talked Wisconsin, unfortunately. I know he probably had a lot of hot takes. He went on a bender, drank a lot of Kool-Aid Jammers, and washed his sorrows away. But Michigan's season outlook, obviously a little murky as of this moment, right? Clearly they aren't going undefeated, duh. But they're also probably not going to beat teams like Ohio State or Penn State or something like that. It has a lot of fans now clamoring for Urban Meyer, a.k.a. Satan. Do you want Urban Meyer? I'm going to ask you, Kyle, Michigan man. I mean, if you had to choose, would you rather have Jim Harbaugh and you believe that he can get it back on track? And if you do, we'll talk about it in a second. Or if you're like, nope, it's time, he hasn't got it done, let's bring in the one guy who, no matter what program he goes to, for whatever reason, sanctions and all, wins the national championship.
I saw this and I thought about it a lot, actually.
There's no rumor, let's be clarified. There's no rumor that he's coming or anything like that. It's just more speculation.
Shut down rumors.
Yeah, speculation.
And I saw this
about Ohio State too, and then 6 months later he's the coach. So.
And I was like, oh God. I mean, like, if I could get a coach with that skill and that scheming and that just ability to coach and recruit and stuff, but not the Urban Meyer name. I mean, one damn good coach to have. But I just, being a Michigan fan, I just can't say that I want him on my team. I just can't. I know it'd probably be amazing for the team, but I just can't. I mean, if he did, I'll root for him, but I'm not going to say I want him until he's here.
He's not going to dog it until he sees the results, right? Same question to you, Mike. Do you want Urban Meyer? Like, if you had, like, you're like, okay, are you done? Are you one of the fans? I think fans are overreacting just a smidge still. I get it. Like, I think people assume that, like, Michigan is a lot like the Dallas Cowboys in college, where everybody thinks that they're always going to be really good, and then they turn out and they're just kind of average more times than not, if we're being, if we're looking at the totality of it. So I think a lot of national media was like, no, Michigan's Final Four team. So everybody was like, oh man, we're not going to lose a step. We lost all these starters on defense. Nah, it's going to be fine. We're just going to fill in. Shea Patterson's going to be bonanza, and it's going to be awesome. And that's not happened. So I think people are freaking out a little bit, but we're more calm here on the show. So I'm going to ask Mike, would you rather have Urban Meyer right now? Like, would you just be like, all right, let's cut our losses, hard off, thanks for coming home, but it didn't work out, go do whatever. Urban, come on in, buddy.
I'm going to say no, and here's why.
Yeah.
I think Michigan's just a cursed place to coach right now. And
that's a great, I was about to say that, so that's great.
It's honestly, though, because you look at it and you go, like, so Jim Harbaugh's been successful everywhere
he's been.
Except here.
Exactly.
Urban Meyer's been successful everywhere he's been.
Right.
He comes here, I doubt he'll be very successful. It's just like how Michigan is.
Yeah.
So I don't think getting Urban Meyer, even though how great of everyone says of coach he is, I don't think he'll be able to turn it around.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say no. I really just want a new, like, that's what, and like something like the Rams did in NFL or whatever, is I just want that fresh, new, young mind, like a 30-something-year-old guy come in and just revamp everything.
And you know what's funny? What's funny is, and I think it's part of the struggle too, I think Michigan tried to do that in a sense, right, with Josh Gaddis. I really think that they went, okay, the offense that we have isn't putting up enough points, right? I give Harbaugh credit for realizing, okay, maybe we can't play power football like we used to be able to do, right? Mm-hmm. Even in the NFL, I don't think that system worked now like it did even 10 years ago, right? I just don't, you know what I mean? I think when he was in the perfect scenario in San Francisco, good O-line, good running back, you know what I mean? But here, I think he tried to change the system. I just don't think, and maybe this is a little bit of the Michigan homer in me, though, I don't think he's got the players to run this system. If you look at this roster and how it was built, what the offensive line, right, is supposed to be good. It's played terribly. You have a ton of tight ends. You don't have depth at wide receiver at all. No depth at wide receiver whatsoever. Your running backs are average. I mean, I get Charbonnet had a couple good games, but in total, he has not played very well. And your quarterback's not very good. So all those things wrapped into this offense, and as you made before, this offense is going to take more than 3 weeks to kind of gel together.
Yeah. Well, I do think, and to that point, I don't think this. I just don't like. It's unfair to go. You have the system that Harbaugh. You scout people and you get for this power system that he had.
Right. And so
your running backs are about, and then you change OCs, and now it's we're gonna spread and pass, but all your guys are made for
downhill, ground and pound, so third and long play.
I don't think it's fair to go, Harbaugh, you're an awful coach when his whole scouting system has changed. Now it's basically like he's like a new head coach almost with this new system, and he's gonna have to re-scout and revamp the team. So I think you have to give it at least a year if you're gonna revamp.
Are you already? This is kind of a subtopic, but how are you feeling about Josh Gaddis? Right, because I think they did try to get that young, hot offensive mind, right? He was the co-OC last year for Bama, right? I mean, are you in any way, shape, or form, like, already done with it? Like, I'm already kind of done with Don Brown, if you want me to be honest with you. Yeah. I think that experiment's done. I think it looked good on paper, but there's no flexibility in that game plan whatsoever. I think they need to get somebody younger, like you're saying, on the defensive side of the ball. But offensively, because that is such a glaring, like, oh my gosh, thing. How are you feeling about Josh Gaddis? Do you think that they need to cut ties now, or you want to give it more time?
I think they should at least give it to the end of the year to see, like, I thought about it for after that game for, like, basically till now is, like, when they were in spring practice, fall training, blah, 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 when they, like, practiced, because nobody else saw it, but when they practiced, were they, lying to us when they said, oh, this is the next, you know.
Well, everything that comes out of those kind of camps is always going to be positive, right? Like every training camp, every time we talk about training camp for the line, wow, they look really good. You know, the first offense looked really good. Okay, so our first defense looked crappy then? Is that what you're saying? So, you know what I mean? It's hard to, and I'm with you, right? Because that's the only stuff we get from fans is, okay, well, you know, MGoBlue.com said that Shea Patterson looks like the greatest quarterback since Joe Montana. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think it's hard to read into that, but we continue.
Or like, did they see that and they're like, yeah, this is it. This
right.
Like, this they thought that they like saw something insane. I mean, my only theory. Look, this is actually kind of thought about this, but like, I was thinking like, what if like, okay, so you have Michigan's offense who's been played like garbage so far. Michigan's defense who's
also played like garbage.
Yeah. Has they like in practice? They're both just so garbage that it makes the other team looks good.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Like, they'd be scoring on our defense, so the offense has to be. Shea Patterson has to be the next greatest thing.
Right. I think they're in a weird transition period, and I think people are overreacting a little bit. I've never been a Shea Patterson guy, but in defense of Harbaugh, I don't think Harbaugh forgot how to coach football. Mm-mm. I think people are thinking that he just lost it. Like he's lost the fire, the passion to want to win. I don't see that. What I see is I see him in a weird spot where he goes, crap, I wanted to reinvent the offense. I basically gave the keys to my offense to Josh Gaddis. I gave the keys to my defense to Don Brown. I'm just kind of being that CEO type of guy where I'm just trying to oversee it all. And people that I've hired that I thought could do the job are failing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't think that he's forgotten how to coach. He's still a great recruiter and everything else like that. I just think that I don't think they have the team built the way that I think that they thought they had it constructed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't think they have the skill.
And here's also a problem is when
they're pretty young.
This is on the offensive side of the ball. Yeah. They have a problem is one, they just can't hold on to the football. So
that's
obviously,
true, absolutely.
But I think that once you get down or the game plan's not working, they have nothing back to fall on.
No,
they don't have a plan B.
No,
gotta
stick with it.
So like Ohio State, they can go, okay, so we're gonna test this out, and if we're down 10-0, 17-0, we're just gonna go back to spread offense, throw the ball around, run around with our quarterback, and then try to pull out the win and try it again next week. Michigan goes, okay, so we're gonna try to spread the ball out and throw around and stuff. If that doesn't work, okay, let's go back to ground and pound, even though we don't have the guys for that anymore, because now we're trying to get these spread guys in.
Right.
They don't really have.
Right, and the ground and pound's not working. And your offensive line is awful.
So now so now you don't have something to go back to. So now it's like, all right, now we're going to have to force the spread to work, even though you're down 17-0 or 21-0 against Wisconsin. Yeah. Okay, well, what else do we have? Right. You can't go back to anything. So.
I don't think you have good enough skill possession. I don't think you have good enough skilled receivers, skilled possession players to run this offense right now. I think Peoples-Jones is good. I think Tariq Black is okay. But after that, you can't name me a guy who's like, wow, that's a premier talent. Like, you can't. Not right now. You can't. Like, look at their offensive output. Excuse me. I don't think it's there. I really, really don't think it's there. Okay, that's going to be it for part one. After the break, we're going to be talking some PWI. We're going to be talking John Morrison resigning with the WWE potentially, as well as some other changes that the World Wrestling Entertainment is making. And we're going to end the show on some Tiger Talk / Major League Baseball preview. Lots of great stuff coming up in part two. Stick around. Hello, welcome back to another, it's not another, I guess, part two.
It's not another one. You're doing the intro.
I know, I was so excited. I was so excited for part two. I just thought it was another episode. So much great content here that we provide on the show every single week. I
totally agree with that.
I'm losing my mind. All right, let's jump right into it, though. PWI 500 is out. Pro Wrestling Illustrated, the magazine, they do it every year. They've been doing it, I think, since like the early 90s, late 80s, I think. Guys who have been the number one pro wrestler, it's based off a whole bunch of different criteria: win-loss record, championships, impact on the business, what shows they've worked for, what companies they've worked for, all that stuff, right? Usually, a lot of times, it's the WWE guy on top, usually. But in their defense, though, it's the biggest company in the world. You're the top guy in that company. It kind of makes sense, right? Guys who have been the Pro Wrestling Illustrated number one wrestler in the world include guys like John Cena's done it, Hulk Hogan. You've seen Shawn Michaels. Bret Hart's won it a couple times. Flair, I think, has done it before.
Kenny Omega was last year.
Dean Malenko did it one year because everybody had a down year, so they wanted who's the best wrestler. So Dean Malenko was the guy. I know. They gave it to the best wrestler they thought in the world at the time, which Dean Malenko was having great matches. So Okada did it. You know, he was the first non-American guy to do it. Lots of good stuff. But the number one wrestler in 2019 is who do you think?
Well, I know who it is.
Oh, that's right. Who do you think, Kyle? He doesn't care. We're going to go. It is Seth Rollins, your Universal Champion at the moment. He was voted the number one wrestler in the world. Now, Mike, do you agree with that assessment that he is the number one wrestler? Just based off the past year. So I think it was July 2018 to June 2019. Like that span of time, you know. Obviously, because they need time to actually write the magazine and stuff. So, like,
okay, that's fair.
I mean, do you think he is the number one guy? Do you agree or disagree? And if you agree, why? If you disagree, give me some reasons. Don't give me a guy yet. I'm gonna ask that in a second. But just tell me, like, why you're with it or you're against it.
I agree. Well, I have another guy. I don't like. And
I know.
Without saying it,
yeah.
I disagree because I think there's another guy that's been better than him through this whole year that they've had the illustration out.
Yeah.
But I do think that if you're gonna go like maybe straight WWE, he's easily probably been the best. He's been the workhorse guy. He's there every single week.
Right.
He's been doing it day in, day out, and he's performed probably some of the, even though the guys he's with isn't really helping him too much with like the Corbins in the world and stuff. He's put on really good matches from what he's getting. Right. So I guess. Yeah, I could argue yes, but I do think
I thought he had a really big year though, right? Intercontinental champion, tag champion, world champion a couple times, Royal Rumble winner, right? I mean, he's main evented a whole bunch of stuff. Won at WrestleMania, beat Brock. I think I would have to agree just based off of what he did, regardless of the product as a whole, right? Of the WWE product as a whole. I think that Seth is a guy you can place in any company, and immediately he's one of the top guys. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think his impact on it, you know, I think his mic skills are just average at best, but his in-ring ability is phenomenal. Clearly, I think he had the best year of his career, even when he was champion before. I know he had a good run there, but I think this is really when he's kind of fleshed out his own kind of path and went, this is the guy. All right, now, if Rollins is not your number one, which is clearly you're not, who is your number one?
Actually, well, I have like two that are like, and none of them are in WWE, mind you.
Clearly, I knew that was coming.
They're all in New Japan right now.
Right. Okay.
So I would say my runner-up is Will Ospreay.
Okay.
I don't think he's ranked at number 10. Just looking at it.
Yep.
And I think his in-ring ability itself, should skyrocket him to the top 5.
But remember though, that's not the only criteria.
I agree.
Yep.
But I think that like.
I thought he had a great year for sure.
Yeah, he had a fantastic year. His mic work is actually very good when he does. Now, New Japan isn't the type to go, we're not going to go talk on the mic for 30 minutes and then set up a match. It's just like, I'm going to fight you. Mm-hmm. That's it. Right. So there's not a lot of content there with it.
Right.
But I think he's had a fantastic year. He's been junior champ. He's been tag champ. Now he's moving up to the heavyweight division.
He was never openweight champion.
Yep. And he had some great matches like Kota Ibushi. He was in the G1 and everything. So I think he had a fantastic
year. Had a great showing in the G1.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
That's also a point to be made. Mm-hmm. But I do think the number one wrestler is Okada right now.
Okay.
I think from
can't argue with it.
From his in-ring work to his mic skills to wherever you could put him against anybody. You could put him, I would say, almost in every company, but if you put him in WWE, his language barrier would be a problem.
That'd be hard.
But his mic work, like from the language that he speaks, is very good. Right. It's just if you went to, it's like Shinsuke when he goes to WWE, it's like you can't really understand him. You wouldn't really understand Okada, but at the same time, he would just put on match after match, 5-star. So I think he would be my number one.
Do you think he gets hurt a little bit because he didn't main event Wrestle Kingdom this year? I think that's probably why.
Probably. He was in the middle with Jay White and stuff, so I don't think he didn't get that like star power boost.
Right.
But it's funny because you say that, and Rollins was the opening act. It was for a major championship,
but it was the marquee match. I think is what is kind of what I'm right. You know, it's not the main event, it's not the last match on the card. Every person in WWE would tell you that. I'm like, okay, well then why is John Cena always on last then?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, why do you do that?
So I think
I can't necessarily disagree with you. I would say that I think Rollins had some, like I said, as far as positioning on the card goes and stuff like that, right? I think the G1 show as a whole, I think disappointed. Like I don't think that hit as far as everybody wanted it to. You know what I mean? That was a big show. He won the title there, obviously, and I don't think that this reign as champion has been as memorable. And I think it's hard to do because he had such a long reign the time before that. So he held it and he had these great matches. I don't think that this reign has been close to that.
Yeah.
Which I think is
I was going to say you got to give it time.
No, that's what I'm saying. Right? Yeah. I'm just saying. Like in that time period, I don't think that even like his matches against his opponents who he's had. I don't think has you know what I mean. He didn't have Kenny working with him. You know what I mean. He's beaten. He's going to beat Sonata pretty soon. He's facing somebody.
But that's exactly how I feel with Rollins. Though, as Rollins gets put with like Baron Corbin and stuff.
Oh right.
What are you going to do with that?
No doubt. For
sure.
They
both have that same issue.
For sure. Right. Absolutely. Let's just do this real quick because I don't know who this is. I don't even know if they rank tag team. Who's your number one tag team in the world right now?
Oh.
If you had to pick one. In the world.
Oh.
Based off that same criteria, win-loss record, right? Championships won, companies they may or may not have worked for in the past year or so, impact, positioning, you know what I mean, all that kind of stuff.
Do you have one?
Huh?
Do you have one? I'm trying to
I'm still I would say the Young Bucks, but the Young Bucks haven't wrestled a ton this year, so I can't say the Bucks, honestly. I'm still really big in the Uso camp, personally. I think they have great matches pretty much no matter who they face. I thought they had a pretty darn good year for the most part. They were champions a couple times. I would probably put them pretty high up there. If I had to say another one, I would say Tangaloa and Tama Tonga. Have had a really great run, but especially in this time period. I mean, they're the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Champs and the Ring of Honor Tag Champs for not like a show. Like, usually when you see those shows where they combine titles, they're champions for like a week and then they drop them back to whatever promotion they work for. They were champions and went on tour for like 4 or 5 months. Like, that's a big time. And they had a great feud with the Briscoes, but I think the Usos, or maybe them, would probably be my two teams. I would say the Revival, but they're so boring.
I think one team that I think you could look at is the Lucha Bros.
Yeah.
Because you can look at all these different companies that they went to also, and they've been AAA champs.
Yep.
They're Impact champs.
Yep.
They're name a company and they're probably champs there.
I think they were PWG. I could be wrong on that.
I think they were PWG champs just recently.
I think another one too that's low key underrated though, just as we're on the topic of tag teams, the North in Impact Wrestling.
Yeah.
Cage and Ethan Page, and Josh Alexander. Those two guys, they were used to be known as the Monster Factory, and those guys are fantastic. Yeah. They've been in a couple different companies, not just Impact, and they're killing it. So I mean that's a team that low key could be in WWE tomorrow and be top guys. Like low key. I'm gonna throw the Era in there too, honestly, just a little bit, because they've been NXT champs forever. You know what I mean? And they put on great matches. You know what I mean? And they're the best. I think they're the top tag team in the NXT.
I would say mine are Lucha Bros.
Lucha Bros, I would say either Usos or the other. Just basically, more small guys on the other side. In Japan, Tama Tonga and Tangaloa. All right, let's talk now some more wrestling stuff, more specifically WWE stuff. Some big news coming in. Now, this has kind of been disputed a little bit, but I'm going to go with it until someone tells me otherwise. That John Morrison, formerly known as Johnny Impact, formerly known as Johnny Nitro, Johnny whatever, whatever.
Bozy and Lucha Underground.
Johnny Lucha? I don't know. Whatever it was. But he's probably coming back. First off, is this a good move for him? And then I want to talk about some other changes WWE's making. Good move by WWE. Are you surprised to see him go back to WWE rather than AEW?
I'm actually not. I thought he would be more of a... I feel like that's one of those... I feel like guys who were previously in WWE when this is going to start now, I think is going to tend to go back to WWE instead of AEW.
Right.
Because I think if Morrison does go back to WWE, I think he's going to get that immediate push.
I hope he does.
Like, I think if he starts out NXT, he's going to be like, within 2 to 3 months, he's going to be that.
I hope he shows up on SmackDown or Raw and just comes in and is just like perfect, like.
Yeah, I mean that would be awesome. But if he starts off at NXT, like he could.
Cole or Riddle versus Morrison, that'd be a fantastic match.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like Morrison, I think like within the first 2 or 3 months, people are gonna know who he is because they remember him from 10 years ago, and they're gonna go, "Oh, John Morrison versus Adam Cole. Okay, start that." Or Roderick Strong, whoever. Then you can go up and get the Rollins and stuff.
Absolutely.
So I think he's gonna. I think he goes back because he can get almost like a guaranteed push. Or if he goes to AEW. Maybe not as many people will know him, even though if you're tuning in, you might remember him still. But and then he might not get the immediate push right away from AEW because you got all these like the Codys, Kennys, and all these younger guys who are trying to do. He might get stuck in the in the middle.
I feel like he'd immediately become like a Gavin Spears type guy where he's kind of there, but you don't really know where he's going, kind of thing. Now, I want to say this, WWE's now changed up their commentating booths, right? Which is crazy. Vic Joseph and a guy I've never even heard of. That other guy
on Raw.
Yeah, on Raw with Jerry the King Lawler. Then on SmackDown, you got Corey Graves, Mike Cole. Sometimes with Renee Young, possibly, maybe, sort of. Yeah. That's never going to happen. Everything else is staying the same. But and Pyro's coming back. They've said new sets are coming pretty soon. They have in the season premiere thing. They're really front loading a lot of stuff. NXT's gonna have 3 title matches next week.
Has it always been new seasons?
No, I think this is like a thing. I think they're trying because they got new commentary. I think they're trying to fresh start as we go in, and then AEW, as AEW is starting out their new thing, we're gonna start new stuff, kind of thing. Okay. So, because I've never heard that. I'm like, season premiere, like, you're on every week. How do you have a season? Like, you don't have an off season. That's part of your tagline. But what are you thinking of all these changes? For the good, for the better? Are these signs that they're ramping up and getting ready?
I do think so.
For this fight.
Do you think with the new commentator, because Michael Cole's usually on the A show,
yes.
Is SmackDown moving to their A show now?
Yes. Well, here's the thing. I think they're just trying to make SmackDown feel. It never will be. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
But with Brock being there now, right? They're gonna have I think Taker, Hogan, and Stone Cold all on the. They're trying to get The Rock and stuff on there. I think they're trying to make SmackDown feel as important as Raw, just based off of the fact that we're gonna put Michael Cole, who's our most experienced announcer, out there. We're gonna let those guys go. Vic Joseph is the young hot up and comer.
Yeah.
Right? Raw is always going to be Raw at the end of the day, but they're trying to make SmackDown an equal compartment because Fox has so much invested into it. So I think they're going to try their hardest to make it the B show or the A show, whether it happens or I think they're hoping that Heyman's got Raw. I think that's what they're hoping. Heyman's got Raw. It'll do good, good numbers, right? SmackDown, all right, there's Bischoff there, but it's not necessarily maybe the best wrestling part of it, you know what I mean? So, all right, we need to front load this, put as many stars as we can on here, and that's why I think Reigns stays on SmackDown.
Yeah,
too. You know what I mean? So we'll talk about the draft obviously as it comes up. But are these signs though? Do you think that WWE is ramping up for a fight?
Yeah, I do too.
Do you think that Vince is yes, competition, let's do this. I'm gonna put him in the ground.
I think it's funny because I don't think it's I guess from Raw and SmackDown, it's not direct competition to them though.
No, it's not. But it's a new company on the block that's got a little bit of cash.
Yeah,
and
because
they got main TV.
Because you're doing even if you say you're like Kyle over here, I'm hoping that he's going to start watching AEW on October 2nd, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll start watching AEW.
Because then we can actually talk about it with you.
Yeah.
But so if you start watching AEW, but that's on Wednesday, and with all these draft brands and everything, everything's going to be separate. Yeah. I mean, why can't you watch Raw and SmackDown and still care about AEW? Right. So to me, I get you're revamping everything, but at the same time, I'm
I think what they're trying to do is it's a similar case to. This is the first time we've talked about this ad nauseum now. This is the first time in literally 20 years where another company has just secured a national TV deal, a national TV. TNT is everywhere, right? Yeah. No other company since WCW has accomplished that feat. So because of that, I think that they are trying to do everything they possibly can to be you don't even need to go over there. There is no alternative. You don't need alternative. You want alternative, you can watch NXT on Wednesdays, right? Yeah. And you want to watch your classic WWE action that you were supposed to know, love, and enjoy. Yeah. You got Raw, you got SmackDown, right? Yeah. So they're trying to, I think, just kind of box you in almost. Here's content, here's content, here's content, here's content. You can't get enough of our content. We're gonna have shows on FS1. We're gonna have all these shows talking about wrestling like it's a legitimate sport and all that stuff. We're just gonna throw as much stuff out there to where you can't take it all in, and there's no room for AEW. You know what I mean? It's like you're squeezing the weed out is basically what it is.
I think AEW benefits almost from that because you can it's only a 2-hour show once a week. It's not like AEW's putting on 17 shows a week too.
Yeah.
So you can kind of if you want to escape that, I think there's gonna be people that want to it's almost gonna be overwhelming how much WWE has out there.
Really?
And you're gonna go, maybe if I could just dedicate 2 hours a week to wrestling and just put it towards this one show, I think you could get fans like that. So it's almost.
Yeah, I think there's pros and cons.
There's pros and cons. Right? I get your part of it, and to my part,
right? Yeah,
even to me, I'm I can't sit and watch Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday. They're gonna have the talk show. I can't watch all that, but I can tune in for 2 hours on a Wednesday night, and watch that.
And I think AEW is gonna combat, like we talked about before, the setting up a foundation, right? After the first couple weeks, after your champions are crowned, there's only so much stuff you can do in 2 hours, right? Yeah. So to further those storylines, you have to take time to build those characters, which means TV is going to be kind of boring for a minute there. You know what I mean? So obviously we'll watch that as we go. All right, let's talk now. Let's talk Tiger talk. Let's welcome Kyle back to the show. The Tiger season is basically officially over. They've officially secured the #1 pick again. Woot woot.
So it's here.
I mean, are there any positive? Let's take the draft pick out of it for a second. Is there any positive takeaways from this season at all? Like anything? Bueller, no. Is this thing on? Is this thing on? Tap tap. Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1.
That's good. Anywho, I think there are benefits that you could put out there.
Cabrera's hitting 10 home runs. I mean, good for him.
Yeah, I mean, that's up from last.
I don't know. Probably just because he was hurt. That's the sad part. He wasn't even hurt this year.
The young guys,
got playing time.
They got playing time. Hopefully, they're developing. I mean, this is a dumpster fire of a season.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot to take away from it.
Let me ask you this, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that this rebuild is going exactly how Al Avila thought, or is it worse? Like, looking at if you're the Tigers GM, right, and you're like, okay, we're not going to be very good for the next couple of years, right? So let's sell the assets off, right? We'll start clean, we'll rebuild, and we'll go through this whole cycle that every baseball team does at some point. Do you think they're like, okay, we're going to be bad? Are we going to be? Did you think though at any point in time that they were going to be this bad?
I mean,
this is like they're at like 112 losses or something like that right now. Like they almost set the record for most losses ever. Like it's not good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like I highly doubt that he was in a room by himself. He's like, yeah, we're gonna sell these assets and then probably gonna go like 46 and 112. But then we're gonna I don't think that I expected him to think that they were gonna be bad, not this bad, but it's the Tigers. It's the Detroit team. You're bound to be bad. It's nothing new. So I mean,
I say Detroit team like the Red Wings weren't 20 straight playoff appearances.
Okay, but now they're bad. So I'm sure.
And also asterisk to that though, does it? I mean, it's like when people discredit the Lions playoff appearances when they go one and done. The Wings did a lot of one and dones in that stretch. Like the last 5 years were like. There's no point. Like we haven't. You know what I mean?
Saying,
I agree with you though. I agree with you absolutely. The same question to you though, Mike. Are you thinking if you're LV, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm totally behind like this whole situation, and like knowing what your plan is in the future. Casey Mize looks like a stud. You got some arms down there.
You do, yeah. I would say not on the Tigers at the moment, but everyone that's in your AAA, AA in that area has been producing very well.
Your high picks have definitely so far have hit. Like Casey Mize. I mean, unless he comes in and he's just awful in the pros, he has come out and really played well, in his time. And, he's risen so fast.
Yeah. So I think that's where you can find your positives from. Right. It's not really on the team. I don't think the team has many positives. I think your developmental stuff has positives. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that maybe at the start of next year, you can see some of these guys play actually the majors more and get that experience. Yep. That's what's very important is get Mize in the majors to have an experience so he can be your ace when your team's when you
start on that upswing again. Okay, you have 3-4 guys that you've developed are ready to go. Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's where your positives come out of the senior season.
Oh, let's talk playoffs here just for a second before we end the show.
Let's do it.
I mean, there's a lot of teams. It feels like this is a weird baseball season for me. We don't do a ton of baseball on the show, obviously, because the Tigers are awful. And there's just so many games. There's only so much you can break down. But it feels like this year, this MLB season, you're either really, really good, or you're average, or you're really, really bad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like you're like what I mean by that is like there's a couple teams that are like, all right, 115 wins, right? And then the next team after that, all right, we got like 85. You know what I mean? And then, there's a big discrepancy from the top tier teams, right? Mm-hmm. Which is there are only a handful, and then the other couple playoff teams are just like, yeah, we're hanging in there, but I don't think we're gonna do a whole lot. You know what I mean? I guess that was a bad way of putting it. But and then there's teams like the Tigers and the Orioles who are just, holy mother, Lord, terrible. We're not gonna do predictions, so to speak, as far as series and stuff. But who is your favorite team going into this postseason? Like, give me one team that you're just like, yep, these are my here's if you had to make a bet right now, who wins it all? Who would you take?
My bet, I would bet from the American League. I would bet the Yankees. Even though not the biggest Yankee fan, But I do think that there's something to be said about hitting a lot of home runs.
Yeah.
Because I do think that if you can, especially if you go later into the playoffs, it's all about your pitching. Mm-hmm. And if you let up 3 runs, you might lose that game.
Right. Absolutely.
And Aaron Judge and Carlos Stanton hitting those home runs for you.
Right.
You have a very high chance at winning.
I think the
games.
Twins are another team like that, dude. Twins hit 300 home runs this year.
Yeah.
300 home runs. That is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
How many home runs that is? I mean, and I can't name 5 guys on the Minnesota Twins. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. So you're talking about teams that have depth and who have power. I mean, that's never happened before. So you got the Yankees, the American League. Who in the National League?
I'll have the Washington Nationals.
Really?
The National League. I think their pitching has been very well, mm-hmm. and I think that's where the matchup goes. Is I go, if you have that A-star pitching, if mm-hmm. you can hold them to less amount of runs, mm-hmm. that's where you go. Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's really, besides maybe the Dodgers, mm-hmm. who can really hit, and they have, I think, the best record in the league right now. Besides them, I think that you can pitch your way out of some of these mm-hmm. series. So I think I'll go Nationals.
Who you got?
I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch a single baseball game by any team all season. But if I had to choose, I would probably pick the Astros.
Yeah.
If they're in the playoffs.
Yeah. No, they're very good. Yeah, that's a team I'm kind of surprised you didn't go with, just because you got Verlander there, you got Greinke there. You know, those are a couple teams. I mean,
the American League has a lot of good teams.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, just looking at this, right, like Atlanta, I think has a chance to do it. I think they're a low key team where I don't think people are thinking about these guys as much. Like I said, I think the Dodgers, for whatever reason, I mean, they had 104 wins this year, and yet I don't think anybody's talking about the Dodgers.
No, that's what I mean.
It's crazy. Every year it's like, oh, let's talk about how the Dodgers are somehow going to go to the World Series. I mean, they haven't got it done, which is probably why people don't talk about them anymore, but, like, man, like, that's a good baseball team, and they continuously are a good baseball team, you know? So I'm kind of surprised you can go Astros a little bit just because of, you know, I mean, just the two top guys off the top. I mean, good Lord. I mean, along with Altuve and Springer and...
I will also say I have a little hope in the Oakland A's, because I love Moneyball.
Yeah,
like, that's awful
great
to say,
yeah.
But I love Moneyball so much that, like, they're in the playoffs. 96 wins.
Yeah.
I will cheer for them the whole time, because I'm like, yes, go Moneyball.
Yeah.
Billy Dean gets that in there.
Yeah. Brad Pitt gets a complimentary ring just because he played him. Yeah, I like I said, we'll kind of go into depth more. Hopefully we have a special guest on the show in the next coming weeks to kind of talk more about baseball. But it's just, like I said, it's just an interesting year. Obviously, not a year to remember for the Detroit Tigers, but hopefully we look back on this in a year or two and go, man, remember we only won 46 games? Now look at us, man. We're back in the pennant race, and we're, you know, winning AL Central championships again and all that good stuff, because, you know, we're hopefully, good Lord. Yeah.
Guys, the Lions are the best Detroit team right now. How do you feel?
I've been saying that for 2 years. I'm like, they're the clean closest to winning a championship. Pistons are nowhere close. Just the way the NBA is set up. Tigers are awful. Wings are awful. You know what I mean? I think the Wings are the team that people have the most hope for.
Yeah, they do.
Just because the Lions track history, obviously, and with Yzerman being back, I think the Wings have the most people saying 3 years. And then we'll be back. Like 3, you know what I mean? Like, I think, and I thought, we talked about before on the show, where Yzerman's like, everyone needs to calm it down. All right? It's going to take a minute. This is a terrible hockey team. You know what I mean? Like, we all need to just sit down and wait a minute here before we just go crazy and be like, oh, we're going to win the Stanley Cup now. He's like, I'm not playing. Let's be clear. You know what I mean? So, obviously. But, yeah, I think the Lions, you know, I'm just saying this right now. We come in next week and Lions beat the Chiefs. Oh, boy. What are you going to do, Rob? Call me drinking the Kool-Aid.
If they beat the Chiefs, I'll buy Patty Mahomes' new signature shoe and wear
is it green like Kermit the Frog because he looks like Kermit?
No, it's like white and gold. It's kind of cool.
Okay, I can get behind it.
So Kyle's like, I low-key want it. I need a reason.
Yeah, right, exactly. All right, guys, give me a reason. That's going to be it for episode 44. For the man, for the Merc Zone, I'm the Mouth of Michigan and the longest reigning I'm Always Right 24/7 champion. And that's going to be it for this week. See you next time.